I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championship, the season of dreams.
So JUCK over with Menace to Sports.
And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you. The Ohio State Buckeyes, the 2024 national champs, will be remembered for how they came out of that. And welcome into JUCK on Bucks on a Thursday. Appreciate you so much for joining me. We've got a big day today. Now, some of you might have missed this, but yesterday, which was a huge news day, actually was signing day. So the class of 2025 now in the books. We'll review that one more time as the 25, one of my favorite classes in a very long time, full of great stories, big personalities, fantastic players. We got to give it the respect it deserves and give it a once over one more time, as they are now officially Buckeyes. Well, almost. They got to get those black stripes removed, of course. But yesterday, a huge day at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Now, Ryan Day came out and said he was going to take his time for these hires. And I assume when he said that, we were going to be looking at something like what we saw last year with the Carlos Loughlin hire. From the time Tony Alfrod left to the time Carlos Loughlin came in, felt like 2 months. We had a lot of different candidates come and go that popped up that were discussion fodder before Loughlin came out of left field. Now, we got an out of left field candidate or hire, that's for sure, with the offensive coordinator. But bombarded with news today on signing day, and I want to make sure we review some of these guys, get some opinions here on what this looks like on the offensive side of the ball as the offensive staff is complete. And we're going to start with the hiring of Tyler Bowen. Tyler Bowen, the Ohio State offensive line coach, will replace Justin Fry, former offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. And I did about a 10-minute video yesterday with his full background rundown. If you want to know that, click back on yesterday's video and check that out. But the quick points are 35 years old, from Georgia, played his college football at Maryland, got into coaching immediately after graduated, and has climbed the ladder ever since. I can't leave out that he's 6'7", 310 pounds. Been an offensive line coach for 3 years in his career. So 2 years at Fordham, 1 year at Maryland, and that last year was 2018. So he's not specifically coached the offensive line for a while. We played a clip yesterday of him answering a question at a press conference just to kind of listen to him talk. A really sharp guy. That's very clear.
How they're throwing the football, and honestly what they're comfortable with schematically, and me being able to make sure that the offensive identity is shaped around that player, because it all starts and ends with him. I've had a ton of mentors. I've been around quarterback play in offensive rooms my whole career. I never played tight end either, but I'd like to think I did a pretty good job of recruiting and developing that position.
Essentially he is dropping down a rung, you would say, in, from offensive coordinator to offensive line coach. But from Virginia Tech to Ohio State, the Virginia Tech folks are very irritated with this. They're not happy at all. They feel like it's a real slap in the face to the program, and I would too. I get it. Regarding recruiting, this man's best recruits have come from an area that I love, the Maryland, D.C., DMV area, and it's clear that he's got really good ties with the Penn State areas. That's one of their areas, the Northeast, which is exactly where I want the Buckeyes to focus on. The Midwest, that area right there, the Northeast, the DMV, that's where they should be focusing on for the offensive line when it comes to mid-range 4-star guys. Plenty of them here. Let's fight with Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, instead of going down south for mid-range to high-range 4-stars that we've got up here. Let's fight up here. It's much easier to pull them. This dude's got an extensive background at Penn State recruiting these type of guys in this area, and I love it. So just so happens that the number one offensive tackle the number two, he's my number one, Emmanuel Ahianachu, also happens to be from Maryland. So I like that. Now let's move to the quarterback coach, Billy Fessler. This is a promotion. Billy was working with the quarterbacks last year, and it was expected that if Brian Hartline was going to be promoted to the offensive coordinator role, the play calling offensive coordinator, that Billy Fessler would become the full-time quarterback coach. And that's exactly what's happening. Billy Fessler, from Erie, Pennsylvania, just 29 years old, was a backup quarterback at Penn State for his college career, went into coaching immediately after, and he went immediately as a GA to Slippery Rock, then Mississippi State, then as a GA at Ohio State before getting his first big-time gig as the quarterbacks coach at the University of Akron in 2022. From there, promoted to the offensive coordinator in 2023 under Joe Moorhead. Tyler Bowen also worked 2 separate times for Joe Moorhead, and I like that. So Billy Fessler had joined Chip Kelly at UCLA last January, right before Chip left UCLA. Chip comes over to Ohio State. Billy follows him. And Billy worked with the quarterbacks with Chip all last year. Will Howard brought him up unprompted in several interviews to make sure he was giving him credit as a guy that really helped him. And when the news first broke that Billy Fessler was to be promoted to the quarterbacks coach, this popped out on Will Howard's feed. This popped out on Julian Sayen's feed. So clearly a guy that they really like. Devin, Will Howard, Julian Sayen, everybody really likes Billy Fessler. Speaks very highly of him. So this sounds really nice for Billy Fessler coaching the quarterbacks. And congrats to him. But another young dude. Now, it is of note that last year, this was something a lot of people seem to have an issue with. Heard it a lot, that there was too many young guys. And now with a 35-year-old offensive line coach, 29-year-old quarterback coach, Chip leaves, Jim Knowles leaves, 2 of the older guys, getting younger, and it'll continue to as Brian Hartline, now officially the offensive coordinator, not just in title, but the man that's going to be calling the plays. And I got to admit, I like seeing him on the sideline. He brings so much juice down there. Not going to be like that anymore, as he'll be up in the booth, most likely like Chip was. And the offensive staff now complete. Offensive line coach, Tyler Bowen. Tight ends coach, Keenan Bailey. Running backs coach, Carlos Loughlin. Quarterbacks coach, Billy Fessler. Offensive coordinator, Brian Hartline. Congrats to Brian Hartline. And that is a young side of the ball there. Very young side of the ball. So what do we think? I know we've been talking a while about Hartline, even before Chip left, just when it was rumored that he was going to leave, as he's never relinquished that title of offensive coordinator or co-offensive coordinator. He just wasn't calling the plays. He was promoted to that offensive coordinator position in 2023. Heading into that 2023 season, Ryan Day said that Hart was going to be calling plays. That never happened. Was that Ryan Day, who didn't think Hartline was ready? Did Hartline not think he was ready? Was Ryan Day not ready to relinquish play calling? Was it a combination of all that? I've seen a lot of people call this a bad hire because that time period right there that Ryan Day didn't give him play calling duties was a quote disaster. We tried this and it didn't work. And I just don't think that we know that. We don't really know what happened there. There are a lot of people that are very concerned about this. I saw a poll, more than 50% of in-tune Buckeye fans somewhat concerned about this hire. And I think obviously the majority of it has to do with not just that situation in 2023, but the fact that, most people don't like somebody cutting their teeth at a new job at Ohio State. And in most cases, I agree. I felt that way about Keenan Bailey last year, moving up to that tight ends coach role. And I didn't feel that way about James Laurinaitis because really the year prior, he was coaching the linebackers, even though he didn't have the title. But Keenan Bailey killed it. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule. We got to remember that the guy who just promoted Brian Hartline to this role, also first-time head coach at Ohio State. It's worked out pretty damn well as we are hoisting the trophy here. This not the new one. The new one just got shipped. It's on the way, guys. So we will have 2 of these soon. But my point is there's exceptions to every rule. Many people saying, would Ryan Day have made this decision to make Brian Hartline the play caller if he hadn't just won a national championship? It's a fair point. It's a fair argument, but I would say that, that can go both ways. While it may be a little riskier and maybe he doesn't make that decision if he doesn't win the national championship, risky is risky because it can go bad or go really good. And if you're going to take a time to take a risk, I would say this would be the time to do it. Ryan Day Brian Hartline, two really intelligent guys. And now you've got a team here. You've got a team. You've got the run game coordinator who has got extensive experience, obviously an offensive coordinator in Tyler Bowen. You got your passing guru in Ryan Day. You got your play caller in Brian Hartline. I think it's a really nice looking team. And Brian Hartline, some people are winners, man. They're just straight up winners. Like, what has Brian Hartline ever done but win? Dude wins at life. He wins at everything he touches. I was saying last night that I think Brian Hartline, the first time he picked up a golf club, he striped it down the middle. Like, he's just a straight up winner. He's smart. Everybody gravitates towards him. There's not an ounce of me that doubts that he's going to be able to do this if he puts his mind to it. And he clearly will. And there's not an ounce of me that doubts Ryan Day when it comes to knowing the right thing for his program. So maybe it's a little riskier than somebody who's established, but a lot of people that are established are just average. Maybe Brian Hartline's going to be great at this. And maybe with Tyler Bowen and Ryan Day, it's the perfect situation. And I'm just going to go ahead and have faith that that's how this is going to go. Because these guys are the defending national champs and they know what the hell they're doing. Now, you got a great team behind them. I love this offensive staff. As far as Billy Fessler goes, there is no quarterback right now in the class of 2026 signed. So you've got Tavian St. Clair in 25, no quarterback in the class of 2026. In 2027, you've got the stud of all studs. Well, he's no Tavian, nobody is. But the next best thing, Brady Edmonds. Brady Edmonds is awesome out of California. He's a 5-star across the board. I talked to Brady. None of this messes with his commitment. He loves it. Talked to Jameer Brown, the number 1 wide receiver in 2027. You got Brady Edmonds, the number 1 or 2 wide receiver or quarterback. Jameer Brown, the number 1 or 2 wide receiver. We got them both locked up in that class. Jameer Brown loves Brian Hartline being named the offensive coordinator. Obviously, he's going to be able to work with him and call some crazy plays to get his dudes involved. So on the recruiting front, as far as those two guys go, that's great. And another benefit here is having Brian Hartline as your offensive coordinator, Billy Fessler as your quarterback coach. You're not changing up a lot of stuff for Julian Sayin, who just spent a year in the system. This is going to be Ryan Day's passing scheme. There's not some guy coming in shaking things up. And you need that in Julian Sayin's first year. So that's fantastic. You've also got your wide receiver coach, now your offensive coordinator, as if he needed any more help to recruit. He's got some, right? There were games last year where I felt you wasted some of Jeremiah. I just feel like there are games where he wasn't utilized as much as he should have been. And I think that's a dude who is just such a difference maker. You need to get him the ball. I think that happens now with Brian Hartline. And the most talented players on this team are the wide receivers. Now we've got the wide receiver coach calling the plays. I like it. Additionally, on the recruiting trail, again, not that you need any help. This is an advantage. Hey, not only am I the wide receiver coach, I'm also the offensive coordinator. So love it from that perspective. As far as Tyler Bowen goes, when it comes to recruiting, very excited to see how quick he hits the ground running here on the recruiting trail. Now, it does kind of suck that he is not coming from a standing offensive line coach position, because if he was, say, Virginia Tech's offensive line coach, he would have several relationships with guys already that he was trying to recruit at Virginia Tech that he could now swing to Ohio State if he thought they were worthy. He would also, many of the guys Ohio State's in on have offers from Virginia Tech. He would know them. He would have relationships with them. That's not the case. So he's starting from scratch here with guys like Adam Guthrie, Sam Greer, Max Riley. Will he reach out to Will Conroy? Micah Smith loves Ohio State, but his relationship wasn't just with Justin Fry, also very much with Ryan Day. Emmanuel Ahianachu from Maryland. Darius Gray from Virginia. These are guys he's got to get in and immediately start getting to know. I think he's going to be a very solid recruiter. Buckeyes also made the top 7 for Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 offensive lineman in the country out of Missouri. I don't think that's going to come. I never thought that was going to be a hit anyway, but I think that all those other guys, I think he can get in with most of them. But he is behind the 8 ball with time here because there are some who are going to make their decisions relatively soon. I know Max Riley wanted to make his decision pretty soon between Ohio State and Clemson. I'm sure Ryan Day's asking him to give him some more time to get to know Tyler Bowen. We'll see. But Sam Greer out of Hoban up here in Akron, Adam Guthrie, still plenty of time to get to know those guys. Will he try to pursue Will Conroy now from St. Ignatius, who's now at IMG, to flip him out from Oklahoma? We'll see what happens there. Also, you've got a couple other guys in Ohio like Lucas Tisch out of Copley, 6'7", 300-pound 3-star Ben Congdon out of Tuscaroras, 6'7", 270-pound 3-star. Some more Ohio guys. It could not be a better class for a new offensive line coach walking in than the current class right now that we have in Ohio. All this talent, all these kids grew up Buckeye fans, so he's got a leg up there. Billy Fessler, obviously, he's not Chip Kelly, doesn't have that panache, but when it comes to recruiting quarterbacks, most of them are coming to play for Ryan Day. So Fessler, with a really good personality, and I think that he's going to do just fine with Ryan Day behind him when it comes to recruiting quarterbacks. So this is our offensive staff. I love it. I can't wait to follow this. Well, the first thing we're going to see is how they kick it up on the recruiting trail. Tyler Bowen, really, that's the first part, and then I can't wait for the press conference. Can't wait to hear what Hartline has to say about this promotion. Can't wait to have Tyler Bowen introduce himself. Hear Billy Fessler. I've never even heard Billy Fessler talk. So all good stuff, guys. All good stuff. So that's the offense. So
no, I don't look at it like that. And I know the way Coach Reed, Coach Spags, and Coach Nagy and all of us, I mean, whoever's playing is a starter. That's how we do it every week. So, I mean, whether you're second on the depth chart, whether you're going to be active that day, when you go out on the field, you're called upon. So you're playing like a starter. So it's an opportunity for us to compete, an opportunity to go get number 11, which we want, and an opportunity to make sure we're going into the playoffs with momentum.
George was really happy to get his 10th sack. Can you just speak to what he's done this year?
Well, he's had a great year. He's really works hard. And, sometimes that's a milestone. Sometimes you might not get that, but you might have had a better year. But George has really worked hard, and he was relentless. And those came at a big time. The flurry of those sacks at the end, Coach Spags made some great calls, put guys in position, and he was relentless in getting after the quarterback. And, as happy as George.
Who's that besides clearly a football guy? That's Joe Cullen, another new potential candidate for the defensive coordinator position that has been floating around today. I find guys like that, so endearing. I just love it. You could tell that guy loves his players, loves his job, loves football. Joe Cullen from Amherst, Massachusetts, and we're talking about a long career at a lot of different places. I'll pull up his resume. The highlights of the career, just of note, he's been an offensive coordinator 3 different times for 1 year apiece with Richmond, the University of Indiana, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. His stint with the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2021, that was Urban Meyer's team, same staff that offensive line coach Tyler Bowen was on, same staff that OG Walt was on. Let's pull up his resume, and you can see it is very long with a lot of different stops at places like LSU, University of Indiana, Illinois, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, Cleveland Browns, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baltimore Ravens, Jags, and currently with the Chiefs, been there a couple years, coaching their defensive line. I don't know, guys. If it's him, we'll dig more into it. I'm not going to go too far into it now, other than to say, I like him. That's a football dude, and I'm just drawn to football guys like that. My kind of guy right there, for sure. So definitely a different vibe than Jim Knowles. No doubt about that. Also, there's your veteran. There's your older guy. I could dig that. I can dig that for sure. Also of note, James Laurinaitis, this guy coaching with Spagnuolo, and Spagnuolo, very close with James Laurinaitis. James Laurinaitis says there's three guys, two guys outside his father, Jim Tressel and Steve Spagnuolo, that, were the three men that shaped him in his life. So, maybe a little connection there too. Speaking of James Laurinaitis, so Aaron Dunston, do you remember Aaron Dunston? Aaron Dunston, director of recruiting, and she left and went to Ann Arbor. And she left and went to Ann Arbor, and we all like Michigan fans made fun of us how they stole this director of recruiting. And like we all laughed about it, like, yeah, whatever, dude. It's some chick that schedules appointments. Well, it turns out that's not all she was. She was a very, very impactful, beloved employee at the Woody. Players loved her, recruits loved her, and she did a tremendous amount, and she did an amazing job. Well, she left and did that, and Ohio State replaced her with this girl from LSU who was in that role at LSU. She comes up to Ohio State. Morgan, I can't remember her last name, but she comes up. She's gone already. This is the point. Like, this just happened, right? When Alfrod left for Michigan, right around that time, she left as well. Bring in this new girl, Morgan something. Morgan's gone. Morgan's going back to LSU. So here we go again. Got to spin it again and find a new director of recruiting and appointments and such, which is very obnoxious and annoying. Now, enough about coaches and staff. Let's talk about some players. As the book is closed now on the class of 2025, let's start with where Ohio State finished in that class ranking per the 247 composite. And what we're going to do now is go over the top 15 classes. Why 15? Because historically, you need to be in that top 15. You need to be a top 15 recruiter over, 4 classes to have a chance at winning a national championship. So who is in that top 15? How many Big Ten teams? How many SEC teams? Let's take a look. We'll start with Texas, who won their first recruiting crown. Then you got Georgia, who lives in the top 3. Alabama, who lives in the top 3. Ohio State, who lives in the top 5, just ahead of Oregon. Michigan at 6, we'll come back to them. You get Auburn at 7 with a top 10 recruiting class for Auburn. Hugh Freeze in Auburn did a great job flipping and paying people to leave where they were going. Florida, Billy Napier, after what he's done at Florida, somehow pulls a top 10 class. Good for him. Mike Elko, in his first real true recruiting class at Texas A&M, lands a top 10 class. Brian Kelly and LSU were in the top 3 for the longest time. They just barely hang on to a top 10 slot. Josh Heupel, that's an improvement. He's usually hanging around 15. He gets up almost to the top 10. Marcus Freeman, number 12. They were looking really high for a long time, had the number 1 class for a while, all the way down to 12. That's not going to make them happy, but they've done very good evaluations. Mario Cristobal drops way back. He was up to top 5 last year, down to 13. Lincoln Riley, 14. Penn State, 15. So a whole lot of takeaways here. Obviously, Lincoln Riley at 14. That is just not going to cut it at USC, man. Not going to cut it. You're a blue blood. That's pretty pathetic. But as far as the Buckeyes recruits, let's go through them one more time, starting at the top with the number 1 recruit in the Buckeyes class, Tavian St. Clair, quarterback out of Bellefontaine. The number 1 cornerback in the class, Devin Sanchez, out of North Shore in Texas. And the number 1 wide receiver in the Buckeyes class, Quincy Porter, now a 5-star by every service, was not when Brian Hartline got him aboard. And those are the 3 5-stars in the class. Tavian St. Clair, Devin Sanchez, Quincy Porter. Riley Pettijohn is James Laurinaitis' first choice at linebacker. He nailed his number 1 linebacker. Fahim Delane, safety. He was McCrary's number 1 safety, his number 1 target. He nails him. Carter Lowe. Justin Fry did an excellent job landing this great in-state offensive lineman, but from Toledo, so it wasn't easy like most in-state battles. He was fighting Michigan hard. Toledo's a 50-50 city. Ziggy Grady. Larry Johnson lands him out of Alabama, and that was a big pull. He is a freshman who I think might be able to contribute. Maybe we should go over that as well. Devin Sanchez, a freshman I think might be able to contribute. Riley Pettijohn, a freshman that might be able to contribute. Fahim Delane, a freshman I think might be able to contribute, along with Ziggy Grady and Turbo Rogers. Anthony Turbo Rogers, flip from Alabama, not technically because he decommitted for a month and then committed to Ohio State, but kind of a flip. TJ Alford, big time recruit at linebacker. As we go down to page 2, Bo Jackson to start this page. Now, when you've got Bo Jackson on page 2, you've done yourself a damn good job. Bo Jackson, superstar running back out of Villa Angela St. Joe's. Breakaway speed, will run you over, no wasted movement. Love the kid. Jarquez Carter, both of those two, potential to have impact years as freshmen. Jarquez Carter, a defensive lineman that's twitched up like Tyleek, a motor that doesn't quit. Love that player. He's excellent. Also, bench press 225, 28 reps at the Rivals camp. That would be second on the current Ohio State team at 17 years old. Nate Roberts, that is Keenan Bailey's number one target. These dudes all got their number one target, which is just fantastic. So Nate Roberts, also a freshman that could potentially see some playing time. Epi Sitanile, he's a late addition, a really good edge, long, wiry body. Phillip Bell, wide receiver out of California that Brian Hartline really liked. Nailed him. Bodpin Miller, project wide receiver from Ontario High School in Mansfield. He was an amazing high school quarterback, a fantastic athlete, long, lanky, catches everything, just a crazy athlete. Can't wait to see Brian work with him. Brody Lennon, a fantastic tight end, who was another great score by Keenan Bailey. Maxwell Roy out of the prep, St. Joe's prep. He's kind of like a Ty Hamilton type. And, I don't think he's ever going to be some superstar, but a really solid looking player. Des Jones, a really good looking slot receiver out of Jersey. A lot of Jersey guys here. Jake Cook, you got our hometown boy who busted his butt for his offer, his dream offer, kept having to come back to camp over and over again. He got it. So happy for that kid. Transformed his whole body, all trying to get to the highest level. And he got it. He got there. So kudos to our guy, Jake. Deshaun Stewart, that's Des Jones' teammate out of New Jersey. He was a corner in high school, but a corner that laid the wood. And he's nice long. He's going to be a safety. He's going to be really good. Javon McFadden, a lineman that Justin Fry fought his butt off and beat Maryland and Colorado down the stretch for. Plays nasty, really nasty lineman. Cody Haddad out of Cleveland St. Ignatius, kind of an unknown. We don't got a ton of film on him. Missed a lot with injury. His dad played in the NFL for the Colts. He was fantastic. The kid is a scrapper, really fast, lays the wood, knows how to use his body for being kind of lightweight to make tackles. He needs some more size. He's kind of a project guy, but when he arrives, I think he'll be a good player. Trajan Odom out of Weddington High School in North Carolina, same high school as Aiden Harris, the number one defensive lineman coming up in this next class. And imagine a defensive line with the Harris twins and Trajan Odom. Pretty nasty. We'll watch some film on that sometime next week. But Trajan Odom, I think, is going to be a really good one. We beat Oregon and USC for him. Eli Lee, my hometown boy. This is a very underrated linebacker. Your traditional Mike linebacker will just absolutely knock your head off. Isaiah West, the single most underrated player maybe in this entire class. And I don't just mean at Ohio State's class. You guys, if you've been around here a long time, know how I feel about that kid. We've watched his film. I don't understand what everybody's missing, but Coach Locke didn't miss him. If you go to my playlist, go to Next Buck Up, you can see what Isaiah West had to say about that, being overlooked by so many. Going to be a fantastic player. Great running back. Jordan Woods, here's a kid that's going to boom or transfer out. I mean, this dude is 6'3", 175, moves like a gazelle, hits like a ton of bricks. I don't understand what I'm missing with him when it comes to his rating. We've watched his film here. I just don't get it. A 6'3", 175-pound kid that can move and hit, playing corner. I feel like I'm missing something. I really do. But so thankful that the Buckeyes were able to flip him from Cincinnati, a great piece who could eventually be something really special. Or maybe I'm missing something and we don't ever see him. Now, that is the Buckeyes class, a fantastic class, another top 5 class, something to be proud of. Full of really good dudes, full of really good kids. But I want to talk for a second about our rival. All right, so Michigan learns how to recruit. They learned how to recruit. Now that they've got some money, they started spending some money. These guys don't ever recruit in the top 10. They're top 15-ish. And that's where they've lived, and they've done very well with that. Now they're in the top 6. They're pushing for top 5. They didn't get the money to start spending until way late in this class. What happens next year when Sharon Moore now has the money the whole time? They're spending money on recruits. They're doing a real good job selling them. And if they can sell them now with things hanging over their head with this money, let's just go over a couple of guys. So Nate Marshall was committed to Michigan, flipped to Auburn for a payday. Michigan goes, pays him more, flips him back. 5-star offensive lineman, Ty Haywood, committed to Alabama, decides to visit Michigan one time, flips to Michigan on signing day. Shamari Earls was committed to Georgia. At one point was a 5-star corner, didn't end up landing at a 5-star in the end, but a fantastic corner. Flips from Georgia to Michigan. Obviously, the Bryce Underwood thing, flipping from LSU. We know the NIL deal there. Steve Wiltfong talked about this today. Talked about Ty Haywood taking one visit to Ann Arbor. What Michigan was offered compared to the Crimson Tide was simply too good to pass up. He says, I think the root of this is they are not going to lose on the NIL front anymore. They're going to have a loaded gun when they go into these blue chip battles. Big change in philosophy, obviously, from, developed, not bought. Jim Harbaugh used to say transformational, not transactional, or something like that. They were very much against spending money on recruits. They did in the transfer portal. They brought guys in the transfer portal, but not in recruiting. And now it's just all systems go. They are spending way more money when it comes to recruiting out of high school than Ohio State ever has. And there is this attitude that they are all full systems go. Like, this is what they're going to do from now on. And it worked. It absolutely worked. And if they're going to recruit like this consistently in the top 10, maybe better next year, maybe they hit in the top 5. If you recruit consistently in the top 6 or 7, I mean, they're usually most years in this 12-team playoff, we're going to see every team that consistently recruits at that level in the playoffs almost every year, which basically means Michigan will consistently be in the playoffs every single year. That's what it means. It means they're back like they were in the 90s, just good every year. Something we're going to have to adjust for, no doubt. And there was a long time that they were gone. I think those days are over if they continue to recruit in the top 10. Recruiting in the top 15, they were able to pop up and have some good years here and there, some not so good years here and there. But if they remain in the top 10 like this, and they will, spending money like that, unless the clearinghouse works. Did I explain the clearinghouse? I know some of you aren't interested in this stuff, but essentially the clearinghouse, I explained it the other day, but just real quick. So with the new deal, the clearinghouse, the new, what do you call it? The new settlement that revenue sharing, the new revenue sharing deal comes the clearinghouse, and any deal over $600 to try to eliminate pay for play has to go to the clearinghouse, and the clearinghouse vets the deal, make sure it's above board, a true NIL deal, and not just a disguise for pay for play. So if it's a disguise for pay for play, then, they kick it back. This is too much. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Nobody does yet, but they're trying to get rid of pay for play. If they can't do it, and a lot of people don't think they'll be able to, they think that this will, they'll lose in court, whatever. If they can't do it, then you look at a school like an Oregon, like a Michigan now, who just are willing to pay these guys right out of high school, and they will continue to live in the top 5 if they do that. This picture floating around of Kirk Herbstreit with his son, and people pissed off that Kirk is wearing the blue and calling him out. And I just think that that's kind of a crappy thing to do. That's his kid, man. And I almost feel like what Michigan did playing the game here with his kid was just a real scummy thing to do. It's like, what are you going to say to your kid? He has no other offers. And I mean it. I mean, this is just like, this was so clearly them playing the game. Here's his offer sheet. He's the number 96 prospect in Ohio. He's going to Michigan. Here's where the other prospects that are rated around him, here's where they're going. Kent State, Toledo, Akron, Coastal Carolina, Miami, Ohio, USF, Kent State, Buffalo, Michigan. One of those things is not like the other. So I almost feel bad for this kid. Like, clearly they just are playing a game, right? It kind of makes me nauseous. Like, they're playing a game because of who his dad is. Nobody in the 96th player in Ohio doesn't get a scholarship to Michigan. As you can see, you just saw all the rest around him. So they play this game with this kid. He's excited. Well, of course he's going to go to Michigan over Miami, Ohio, or Kent State. So he enrolls in Michigan, and they clearly just do it because of his dad. Now, his dad, sure, he's going to support his kid, and then everybody rips on him. And I hate the whole situation, but, no, I don't have any issue with him wearing those colors. That's his son. But I also think the kid is just getting played because they're playing this game. Like, ha, 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 look what we did. I think it's tacky as hell. I really think it is. And I feel like, in a way, they're screwing around with this kid. Like, that's not a scholarship quarterback at Michigan. That's clear. He's going to end up transferring in 2 years. It'll have been a waste of time, but they got their get. You know what I mean? Like, they got theirs with the whole story of it. And Kirk wearing the Michigan gear. It's just so tacky. Anyhow, guys, that'll do me for today. I appreciate you all so much. I'll talk to you soon. Please like the video and subscribe. Juck and Bucks out. Hey, it's Juck.
Juck. Who is Juck?
Juck on Bucks.
Juck on Bucks. Juck on Bucks.
Juck.
Juck.
Juck on Bucks.
My guy Juck.
Juck on Bucks.
My buddy Juck.
Juck is the Juck.
It's Juck on Bucks.
Okay.
Juck is junk.
The Juck eyes.
Juck eyes.
Juck on Bucks.
Junk. Juck. Not junk. Juck.